Morning, guys. 2 projects for the day, maybe a third. I didn't realize I was actually getting going this early. I sat and had coffee this morning and everything, and I came out here, and then I needed to, after the dog and I walked, I sat and had my coffee. We needed to walk back over to our little Ace Hardware right over here, about 5 blocks away, and get some nuts and bolts and washers for my little machine mount. So that's the main project for the day, but I hadn't realized it wasn't even, we were back here and back in the shop before 9 o'clock. So I might get a lot done today, we'll see. Anyway, question from my little vlog yesterday was, I was asked how tall the milling machine table ended up after we put it underneath the riser. Right now I'm at 42 inches. By the time we get machine mounts underneath and mounted, it'll be any place from 43 1/4 to about 44 1/4 is about where it is, and there's adjustment in there so I can play with them. You know, there's probably an inch and a half of adjustment of raise and lower. But anyway, I'm going to build 4 little machine feet very quickly this morning. I've done these machine feet before. I think I actually did a video on them way back when, but this is just kind of a recap of that. But we're just going to set them up and run them in the lathe and then bolt them together. And then once I pull the machine mount back underneath, well, I'll weld up the plates for those on the bottoms, and you know, we'll get it painted up and do the rest of our goodies and get it back underneath. So anyway, this is machine mounts. I'll show you the way they're going together here. So this is what I end up with. We've got the 4 hockey pucks. Now these are just standard hockey pucks. I had years ago, and I think I just looked at the box, it was back in 2015, I'd bought a box of these off of Fleabay. They were cheap compared to what we paid for them retail in the stores. And I think I got a box of 48 of them, 50 of them, something like that. I've still got, well, minus these 4, I've still got 4 more sets. I've got 16 more sitting over there. So I've used that many over the last 8 years, but they were dirt cheap. You know, I probably gave $1.50 or $2 a piece for them. Maybe not even that much. I don't remember. But anyway, the way these go together is this is all the machining I do on them. Set them up in the lathe and just lightly clamp them. We counterbore it with an 1 1/8 Forstner bit, and then I run a 1/2 inch bit all the rest of the way through. And this was I had some of these washers left over. It's gotten more expensive to do these over time, of course, but this little bag amounts to $20 and I think 27 cents. So 1/2 inch carriage bolts and big washers, of which I add another little washer just to kind of help center them up on the machines. But anyway, that's what we got, and that's enough to do 4 machine mounts. So, you know, less than 30 bucks. I'll put these on a machine that's up to probably 800 or 1,000 pounds. You know, virtually everything I run here in the shop, I put these mounts underneath. I do not have them under the Sheldon lathes, and I think it'll be plenty enough support for those. But I put these underneath most of the other things that I built stands for, or underneath the milling machines and things like that. So I've got a lot of them. I think it works really well. So you got leveling capabilities, and they give you some cushion underneath, although they're a solid puck. So anyway, we'll take them over. I'll drill these real quickly, and then we'll come back and put them together and be done with this part of the project. Okay, a little bit different setup here in the shop as we change things around. I've moved the milling machine. It's just up at the headstock. I still got clearance running through the headstock of the lathe to run long shafting through, things like that. I don't know if you can see that much of the milling machine yet. I've got this lower side door off, or side cover off. I'd not pulled one of those off since I've got the machine, but I'm going to put just probably a plywood floor on the bottom of that. And there's room in there. I think I'm going to put my shop vac and maybe a little cheapy compressor that I've got, just because it's here and surplus to my needs. I may use that to strictly power the air going onto the milling machine. Whether I do that or not, I really don't know, because it's a loud little thing, and even underneath the base, I don't know if I'm going to like it, so we'll see. Anyway, hockey pucks. Of course, we want it to look with our letterings facing upwards, and because we want it to be official, like it says here on the hockey puck. So you put that lettering into the headstock, because this will be the bottoms, and we just give them enough oomph to hold them in place. And depth-wise, I suppose we could actually, no, I guess we can't use the digital readout because we don't have depth on it. I've got a mark. We're going just over 1/4 inch deep. It's plenty deep on these. No rocket science. We want them to run fairly true, but Doesn't really matter. All this is a through hole and a recess for the carriage bolt head. We go that deep. And there we go. There we go. There's the first one done. That's all it takes. Rinse and repeat 4 times. Just standard Forstner bit, brad pointed woodworking bit. Cuts a little bit nicer, doesn't leave a ragged edge on the exit side of that hole. Cuts it nice and clean. And just that quick, just that easy, we have 4 pucks prepared. Cost breakdown on these. Now, for my little Ace Hardware, these things have gotten expensive. These are $1.50 a piece, $1.49. Bolts are 40 cents a piece, and these big washers are $1.99 a piece, which is an awful lot of money from what we used to pay for these. I used to buy these bulk packs, but what they are is what they are. So they go together super easy. We shove our 1/2-inch bolt through here. Just like that. Put on a big washer. I put on a smaller washer to hopefully kind of help center them up a little bit. And if you want more travel out of these, you can put a longer bolt in. You know, I don't want to get a whole lot of weight or a whole lot of torque on a 1/2-inch carriage bolt. But recessed, they set down in there like that. I put another one on as a jam nut for when we get it to the right height. And what'll happen is this will go up through a hole in probably a 1/4-inch plate on the bottom, and I weld a nut on the inside of that assembly on the bases themselves. That way I can just thread these in. Once I get a machine leveled and set the way I want it into the right height, then I use this one as a lock nut just to lock it in place. Okay, so height-wise on these are going to add about 1.75 inches to height at the minimum, and then you can adjust them up a little bit more than that, or make them a little bit longer if you want. If you wanted them to be a little more low profile, you could use narrow nuts or lock nuts, both here and here would reduce that, or both here and here would reduce that height another, probably 1/4 inch, almost 1/4 inch anyway. And I'm mistaken because these will raise those a little bit taller than that. These will raise these to about, yeah, 2¼ inches. So I'll end up with 44½ on the height of the table on the milling machine. So that'll still be just fine. But anyway, there's four machine mounts. Another project done for the day, so let's move on to the next one. And it's not even 9:40. Well, this is the second project for the day. Hopefully I'll get it finished up. I got to chatting with a friend of mine on the phone. So all we are doing is we are going to mount a little piece of flat bar, which ultimately we'll powder coat and put back up here, but it's going to mount, I don't know if you can see it up here underneath the bottom of the digital readout, and right there. And let me move that up so you can see it a little bit maybe. So on our digital readout, it's going to mount up right here like that, and that way I can take my little magnetic clipboards and stick them up underneath. I've already made up a second one, and the reason I'm doing this is I had these under the original digital readouts on the Shumatex, but I had little standoffs on the one that was on the mill, and it hung right down below the edge of the thing, and I could stick them on there. What I found, let me grab one of the clipboards. This is one of them that I've made up, and this is one of those foolish little shop projects that, you know, you think, what a waste of time. By the same token, it has worked out really well for me. Now I've got a couple of things. Actually, this is a laminated layout that I've got underneath this one that I used with a indexing head on the mill before for a project that I did quite often. I just laminated one up, and if it hangs right there, right under the digital readout, it gave me my coordinates. And I can do the same thing. I make little sketches, and normally I don't like a full 8.5 by 11 print hanging out here. It seems to kind of be in the way for me, but something about this size works out just fine. So I had, when I did my last little production run here this last week, I couldn't show that one because that was a customer project, but I ended up and I just hung my little clipboard right there, and it works all right, but it wasn't right there under the digital readout. What I was doing was I was running a couple pockets, actually 3 different pockets on a project, and I just had 3 little pieces of paper on here. And as I finished one operation with all the coordinates on one part, why I could just swap out my little pieces, and it hung right here under the digital, or it hangs right under the digital readout. Really quick and easy and simple for me, and really consistent. So it's something that I've already found out that I missed not having when I put the Shumatech off and put this 2-auto DRO on here. So it's one I wanted to do. I'm going to do another one for the Sheldon lathe, but I'll wait until I get the other Sheldon set up probably to do that and see how I hook up the digital readouts there, or what digital readouts I use. So anyway, that's one of the other foolish little projects for the day. All I'm going to do is, I've already marked this piece, and all it is a 1/8 inch by 6 inch long, and probably what, 3/4, half inch piece of flat bar that I had as a piece of scrap. I'm going to pop 2 holes in there to have clearance holes for a 1032 screw, and then I'll pull the digital readout off and take my little mounting bracket, and I'll just drill and tap 2 holes in the bottom of that. So, you know, nothing that amounts to anything, but a really useful project once you've got them there. go. Now that I move stuff around, I have to stop and think about where I have things. Nothing rocket science about this at all. That's the way it looks. Now let's see if we can pull this digital readout apart or off of the mounting brackets without screwing everything else up here. What do we want to do? I'll go ahead and disassemble this and then I'll bring you back, because all I'm going to do is take the bracket completely off of here, which I'll have to do it twice more because at some point I'll anodize that bracket when I start anodizing stuff again. But for right now, we're just going to pull it off, drill our holes, drill and tap our holes and reassemble it. And we're back. Here's our mounting bracket. We started disassembling it. It mounts up onto the back of the digital readout like this. Hopefully like that, I guess. This will be the front sticking out here. The only thing I don't like about this digital readout, and it's not the only thing I don't like about this digital readout, but one of the things I don't like is the way they've made their little case to where I had to build a bracket instead of just having something coming straight out. Why they've done goofy stuff to it. And, you know, they had their own little bracket that would mount on or something. I don't remember now, but I didn't care for it. So, and like I say, at some point, what I will take and I will disassemble this and we'll anodize it. See if we can mark that long enough to get it to hold up. So this is going to mount. This mounts just like this. So we want our piece on the bottom. We're going to want to mount it right in here like yay. There again, I don't feel the need to get too excited about all of this. This is not rocket science. It's kind of windy out. We're just kind of balanced up there and strapped in place, so. Windy out. Gonna turn into be a crappy day. Moving the mill over here, I have to reset air hoses and all that good stuff, but I'm trying to do things in some semblance of order to gain a little more organization. I don't know if it's going to work or not, but I'll tap that a little bit farther. Plenty deep there. Guess not. We'll go back and do that here in a minute. If you haven't discovered yet, I haven't really bought into the idea of power tapping on stuff like this. You know, there's some things that I do, but I don't, I really, unless I've got a gazillion holes to do, I don't mind hand tapping them. And there again, that goes back to gunsmithing background, because when you're trying to tap a hardened Springfield receiver, something like that, why you want that, you want to be able to feel what you're doing, because some of those are case hardened, some of them are hardened through, and not only do you go through a lot of taps, but by the time you screw around, you definitely don't want to break off a tap there, which I have on occasion done, but works out to be a major operation to get them extracted and save the project without having to go oversize and go through the whole thing again. Okay, well, this is going to sit here. This is going to go back on here like this. I suppose I probably should try that bracket on there just to make sure it's going to fit. there's our little setup. So let's take her back apart again, or this part of it apart again. And we can mount the digital readout back up, and then we'll take this little straight arm and we'll take it over and powder coat it real quick. Sandblast it off and then powder coat it. And it's one more little shop upgrade that's done. One last little final fit here. Perfect. Now I've got my whatever dimensions I want. I would have, if I was doing this again, I would probably build me a little bracket to come farther out so this hung farther out here, but there's not a thing wrong with it hanging right there. Yeah, that works because then you can see what you're doing on the digital readout, and that'll work perfect. Clean up my mess here. This is going to get cleaned up, sandblasted, and probably powder coated, so we'll bring it back in a little bit. Yeah, it's windy enough now outside. The garbage cans are blowing down the road. I'll have to walk out there. I pulled ours back, but I'll have to walk out and make sure it's actually stayed there. Okay, well, it's one more little project that's done. Just like yay. I've actually done up in the second one. Same way. These are heavy duty magnets on the bottom of them. They're plenty strong enough to hold it under mill operations. So that's what they are. This is the way I did them. I just took a little piece of aluminum, bent it. You know, you could use it with aluminum angle. I think that's what I did on the first one. Was I just had a little piece of architectural angle. It was probably, looks like it was about 1/2 by 1/2, something like that. And I just trimmed it back. I didn't find another piece, so I just took a piece of, this is probably 32 thousandths, and just riveted onto the clipboard. A couple of little heavy duty magnets. These magnets are magnets I had left over. They've got a hole in the center, so we just pushed a rivet down through there and riveted them in place. That's all there is to them. So anyway, I found this to be exceptionally useful. You know, I didn't realize how much I utilized it or how much I missed it until I changed the digital readouts and I didn't have it hanging there. So it's something that, you know, you spend time doing it. I think it's a worthwhile project. I've got to enjoy an hour or so here in the shop doing this, that, and something else. And, you know, I've got something that'll be there forever now and I'll use because it's part of my workflow. So anyway, hopefully you find it a little bit useful. I think it's, I spent too much time BSing with a friend on the phone earlier. So maybe I will get started again on my next little project, which is going to be working on the coolant system, I think, for this mill. So anyway, that's where we're at. Hopefully you find it a little bit useful. Comments, suggestions, leave them in the comment section for me below. And as always, guys, thanks for taking the time to watch.